Earlier today at the PowerSlap post-slap press conference, Dana White gave one of the most deranged and humiliating interviews I have ever seen in my entire life. And we're going to look at a bunch of different clips from this press conference because this one was particularly bad. He tries to bury PFL, and meanwhile, he humiliates himself while doing it. And then he takes it upon himself to try to bury Francis Ngannou yet again, try to diminish Francis Ngannou yet again. And what really ticked me off when I watched this was somebody asked Dana White, and I'm going to show you the clip. Oh, what do you think about what Francis was able to achieve in his MMA comeback, after losing his son? Dana White laughs in the reporter's face and then goes on a diatribe saying, yeah, we wanted to cut Francis Ngannou. What a total piece of shit. And what a petty asshole that this man in Francis Ngannou said, you know what? I'd rather not do business with you. I'm going to go elsewhere where I can make more money. And Dana White's holding that against him literally years later. Literally years later. And that's not all we have planned for this video, because we're going to start off by exposing PowerSlap, because Dana White continues to use these hyperbolic statements to elevate PowerSlap. When I'm looking at PowerSlap, at least on YouTube, I'm seeing something a little bit fishy. But let's jump right into it. I don't want to waste too much of your time. First off, we're going to start off with Dana White responding to some of the things that Don Davis has said recently while promoting PFL. He's been using some kind of like promotional or promoter speak, for whatever you want to call it, where he's kind of embellishing stuff and over-exaggerating stuff and comparing PFL to the UFC. And apparently Dana White doesn't like it, okay? And fair enough, Don Davis has said some things that are really ridiculous and insulting to the average fan's intelligence. Really not insulting to their intelligence. Insulting to some of the MMA fans' intelligence. But this is where Dana starts to go off on PFL. Let's listen.
Speaking of numbers, actually, I was going to wait for a little while, but PFL guy Don Davis brought up numbers.
That guy's hilarious.
He said that his event last Saturday with Francis Ngannou beat any event with the numbers, beat any event the UFC had put on this year. I'm curious if you could disagree with that, and how does it even compare to PowerSlap, the PFL numbers?
Yeah.
By the way, talk about a shill question. How does it compare to PowerSlap, Dana? The majority of these media members, if not all of them, are only there because they cover MMA, and basically they're scared of getting on Dana's bad side by not covering PowerSlap as well, by the way. But I want to make this very clear because I don't want anyone to jump down the comments. What Don Davis said, if accurately represented by this media member, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. That's fair enough. But listen to what Dana White launches into a diatribe about PFL, all because he's pissed that Francis Ngannou went there so he could make more money for him and his family, okay? And by the way, Dana White makes multiple conflicting statements here that make absolutely no sense. And if you have any rationale or any critical thinking skills, you can easily pick apart and see that Dana White's lying right to our face. But let's continue.
First of all, the PFL should keep the UFC out of their mouth. They can't even deal with PowerSlap. PowerSlap destroys PFL, all right? It's weird that you asked me that question because I just happen to have some papers here.
This is the man that doesn't care about PFL, remember? He does not care about PFL. He has a sheet of paper that he had some intern conjure up with all the numbers on it. Let's listen.
So, first of all, let's start with followers. PowerSlap has 19.2 million followers. The PFL has 10. Video views. PFL Fight Week did 326 million. PowerSlap 8 did 690 million, okay? PFL Fight Week Instagram views, 76 million. PowerSlap 9, the week of. This is, so if you look at PFL, the fight week and the aftermath, these guys had 76. Just the week of, they had 68 million on PowerSlap, okay?
Again, hyping up, being hyperbolic about PowerSlap's numbers. By the way, we got to listen to a little bit more of this little diatribe here of comparing PowerSlap's numbers to PFL. Let's look at some of the comments. This was uploaded to the Mac Life, because they're covering it because they need to, because they cover MMA, so they don't want to piss Dana off. Let's look at some of the comments. Nobody is here for PowerSlap, by the way, just here for UFC news. Go to 1447 for actual MMA stuff. Save yourself from the PowerSlap slop. I'm going to dislike this comment because it's not true. There is MMA related stuff prior to 1447. If I want to be very clear for anyone who's going to go watch this, it's around the 3 minute to 5 minute mark, as well as around the 11.5 minute mark to the 12.5 minute mark. I actually went and watched this entire thing for you guys. No one gives a shit about PowerSlap, Dana. No one. Dana is so salty about Francis. Why would I lie? This guy said that PowerSlap was bigger than the NFL. These reporters are so scared to call Dana out on those fake numbers. Let's carry on now.
Okay. And we haven't even had a fight yet. PFL's Instagram reel with Francis and Ronaldo did 14 million views. PowerSlap's 9 Instagram reel with contender Isaiah had 22 million views. And that was a repost of an old fight. The repost of the old fight beat Francis and Ronaldo.
Look how petty he is. The repost of the fight beat Francis and Ronaldo. Like, first off, I'm not even sure those numbers are accurate, but who gives a rat's ass? And you don't care about PFL. You don't care about Francis. This man stormed out of the building because he didn't want to wrap the belt around Francis Ngannou's waist when he took out Ciryl. He stormed out of the building. Let's continue.
I can keep going on for a fucking month here. And then if you want to get into what he said about the UFC, I have a laundry list here. But let me just start with this. UFC Vegas 84 at the Apex beat them.
You notice the way he said Apex? Like the Apex is shit. This man knows the Apex is shit, but he doesn't care. He's going to keep feeding it to fans because all he cares about is those ESPN checks. But let's take Dana at face value. Let's say all the numbers correct. There's no way I'm going to go and fact check all those numbers, right? Why would that be a shame that PFL is less popular than the UFC? I understand if Don Davis said something ridiculous, Dana has the right to call it out. But you know why it doesn't matter if PFL is less popular than PowerSlap? Because according to Dana White, PowerSlap is the biggest sport in the entire world. Let's listen to this flagrant episode from 4 months ago. Let's take a listen.
An actual sport, got it sanctioned, and put good production value behind it. The answer is fucking billions of views. Billions of views globally. And it destroys. Think about this. We started this thing 15 months ago, right?
It's destroying everything, boys. Billions of views for PowerSlap, and we're gonna deep dive on that in a second.
And right now on YouTube, we have more subscribers than NHL, MLS, NASCAR, PGA, Barstool Sports. We have over 1 billion YouTube views, right? 8 of the top 12 largest YouTube shorts against other major sports are PowerSlap. And 4 of the top 5 largest YouTube shorts on UFC channel. We're number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on UFC.
By the way, PowerSlap is so popular, they have to shoehorn it in on the UFC's website. They have to shoehorn it in on the UFC's YouTube channel. They have to shoehorn it in on every UFC broadcast. But yeah, it's so popular. It's popular in every, sports organization and this and that. So why is it such a shame PFL's below that? Who would expect them to be above the biggest sport in the world? Dana, right?
And when you think about Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, all the big stars, this thing absolutely dominates. We have more followers than every single professional sport. Every professional sports team, we have more followers than them in 15 months.
Wow. More than like Real Madrid or like these soccer teams?
I don't know about the soccer teams, but I would say yes.
I would say yes. And watch, they literally laugh in his face.
Yeah. Every fucking sports team, we have more followers. So I would say yes.
So every professional sports team, they have more followers then. So I don't see why it's such a shame for PFL to have less views, less followers, less engagement than them. But before I skip ahead to the Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou, PFL, Tom Aspinall, a little bit of Tom Aspinall sprinkled in, let's take a look at PowerSlap's YouTube channel. Okay, 3.1 million subscribers, 1.2K videos, okay? And I understand, and I'm going to point out, the majority of their views come from short-form content. By the way, short-form content is not indicative of success. It's not indicative of generating revenue either, okay? So let's just take a look at their regular long-form video post on YouTube. Let's see how they're doing. Oh, 7.9K, 7.5K, 1.5K, 943 views. 1K views, 17K views, 1.8K, 58K views, 104K views, 17K. Okay, so you can see the views aren't that good. But you're going to say, Joey, what about the 58K? What about the 104K? You know, what about the 17K? I believe whoever's running the PowerSlap YouTube channel is buying views. Because let's take a look, okay? This is the one that was like 17K views, okay? 18K, 442 views, 13 hours ago. 52 comments. 52 comments. Let's take a look at one of my videos I just have up. That's not it right there. Let's take a look at one of my videos that I have up. Okay, this is from my press conference reaction earlier, okay? It's got 3,000 views according to this. On my end, I could see a real-time counter. It's like closer to 5K. 100 comments. 100 comments. Meanwhile, they have 19, almost 20,000 views. They got 52 comments. But let's check some other ones. And by the way, if you guys didn't know, what is indicative of buying views means you have a lot of views and not very many likes and not very many comments. We got 20,000 views. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. 325 likes, 52 comments. Let's check out another one. Let's see. We have 104,000 views 4 days ago. We got out of 104,000 views, we have 1.1K likes. That's insane. I just realized I didn't scroll down. That is insane. How many comments we got? 156 comments. 156 comments on a 104,000 view video. Let's check out another one. Okay, we got Road to the Title, Season 3, Episode 6. 58K views 1 day ago. 58K views, 868 likes, 96 comments. That is insane. This has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but I can't stop watching. I was going to like it off the first thing, but I'm not going to like it now. Okay? So as you guys can see, the views to likes to comment ratio for PowerSlap, especially for their long-form content, which, by the way, long-form content is actually what generates revenue. It's not that good. I mean, look, 202 likes here. It's saying 3,000 views now. It's closer to 5,000 in real time. I have real-time data on it. But either way, if you want to compare it to what it has here, and that's what it has. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make it 203 while we're at it, you know? So I'm going to make it 203. So there we go. There we go. PowerSlap buying views on their long-term content. No one can convince me otherwise. There cannot be a rational explanation for the fact they have 3.1 million subscribers. They're getting these piss-poor views for the sub count, and then they're getting no real interaction. It's just insanity to me. And you got people dumpling, putting the Hawaiian to sleep. Can't wait for the two giant... Like, who's even watching this? Who's even watching this? Let's go back to this, okay? Let's jump ahead now. Now we're going to hear someone really tick Dana White off. The fans want to see Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou. Dana White confronted by a media member. That's the fight that people want to see. Dana shuts it down immediately. Let's continue.
Okay, my last question.
Yep.
Most of the MMA fans dream about seeing a fight between Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. What do we need to have in this world to make this happen?
I think fans are dreaming about Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. That's the...
Well, unfortunately for fans, you're not willing to make either one of those fights. You know, Jon Jones, you put him in a room with anybody. You know, you're doing Jon Jones versus the dead carcass of Stipe Miocic, who hasn't won a fucking fight since August of 2020. August of 2020 is Stipe Miocic's last win. He's fighting for a title. Oh, what was his last fight? What was his last fight? Oh my! It was Francis Ngannou brutally flatlining him and folding him like a lawn chair to take his title from him. That's what happened last time. But instead, you know, oh yeah, the fans really want to see Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. Is that going to happen? Are you going to make that? I seen a post the other day, and it was a picture of Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, and Francis Ngannou, and it was like, it's sad that we'll never see any of these guys fight each other. Dana White is responsible for that. That could be laid at the feet of Dana White. But let's listen to this again.
And Francis Ngannou. What do we need to have in this world to make this happen?
I think fans are dreaming about Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. That's the fight I think they're dreaming about.
Yes.
I think Dana's dreaming about Jon Jones' dick in his mouth, to be quite honest, the way he talks about him 24/7.
Also.
I think that if Stipe wins the fight or Jon Jones wins the fight, the way that both of those guys are wired, I think they fight Aspinall. So we'll see.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll see. I hope he's right. I hope he's right. But if not, we're left with, we're going to have Tom Aspinall as champion. And then I guess we're left with Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. That's like the two top guys in the heavyweight division. But okay, that's not too bad. He just shuts it down. I don't blame Dana for shutting it down. Because at the end of the day, Francis is with another promotion. Let Francis go on his merry way. We're not going to do business together. UFC is just going to be just fine. PFL, Francis and Ngannou are going to be just fine. But Dana has to take it a step further. Because in this next question I'm going to show you, and this actually really rubbed me the wrong way. I heard this. I was just about to leave my house to go out with my fiance. And I heard this clip. And I was stewing over it for the 3 hours that I had left my house. It drove me nuts. Somebody asked Dana, what do you think about what Francis has accomplished after everything he's gone through with losing in boxing and losing his 15-month-old son? Dana laughs hysterically. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Dana's laughing about his tragedy. But think about how insensitive you have to be asked that question and saying, oh, I'm happy for Francis, and move on. Let's talk about PowerSlap some more. Let me get my PowerSlap blue solo cup. Well, now it's black solo cup with blue lettering. But instead of doing that, he's got to launch into a diatribe about a man who recently lost his 15-month-old son. And by the way, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Dana will take every opportunity, every other fucking week, to shit on Francis Ngannou and shit on PFL. I have not heard him once publicly say, you know what, I heard what happened with Francis Ngannou and his family. I want to publicly wish him, my condolences. I'm sorry that happened to him. It would take 10 seconds. But no, Dana's pissed because guess what? Francis Ngannou left the UFC and he set a path forward for other fighters to potentially follow. And that's what Dana White doesn't want. Because Francis Ngannou, according to the numbers that we know right now, made roughly $10 million to box Tyson Fury, okay? He made roughly $20 million to box Anthony Joshua. And he made roughly $10 million to fight against Renan Fajeda. That is $40 million. I believe his last purse against Cyril Gane was $600K. Okay? Francis Ngannou, in terms of MMA paychecks, we're not counting a boxing paycheck. I guess technically his boxing paycheck. The only person that even comes close is Conor McGregor, and that's including his Floyd Mayweather boxing match. Francis Ngannou's paychecks have dwarfed everyone. But let's take a listen to this question and listen to the response, because this response made me want to jump through the screen. I swear on my life.
Last one for me, MMA related. I know we talked about like Don Davis and the numbers and everything, but just as like a fight fan, what did you make of Francis's performance, given everything that's happened to him in his career, the 2 losses in boxing, the loss of his son?
It was better than Don Davis's.
The loss of his son. He cuts him off and starts laughing.
Way better. Listen, man, I think that I'm going to tell you what I think about what Francis is all about the money.
Okay, so ready? Francis is all about the money. Remember that, okay? Remember that. You're not going to need to remember it for long. Remember the narrative they originally painted when Francis Ngannou left. He's greedy. He's money hungry for money that he'll never get. By the way, he got that money. I could show you a clip of Dana going off about Francis thinks he's going to box Anthony Joshua and he's going to make this big paycheck. I disagree. Well, you were wrong, Baldy. You were wrong. But remember, okay, let's actually rewind it. Let's rewind it a little bit. Francis is all about the money. Remember that. Remember that line.
I'm going to tell you what I think about what Francis is all about the money. Francis left because he knew that if he fought Jon Jones and didn't win, it would hurt his chances of making the money that he wanted to make.
So there you go. Okay, and again, I want you to remember that. Francis left because all he cares about is money. It's all about the money with Francis Ngannou. And then he acts like Francis Ngannou is scared of Jon Jones, which is crazy because if you go back to UFC 260, this was the night that Francis Ngannou brutally flatlined Stipe Miocic to win the title. Jon Jones was trying to get that Francis Ngannou fight, okay? Francis Ngannou had been trying to get the Jon Jones fight for a couple years, but because of the contract negotiations and back and forth and Dana White icing Francis Ngannou, they were unable to make that fight, okay? They were unable to come to terms, and eventually Francis got the title shot anyway, and, I'm mixing it up. Jon Jones was in contract negotiations. Francis was also in contract negotiations, but it didn't matter just yet because he had like 2 or 3 fights left on his deal or whatever. I believe it was 2 fights left on his deal. But this is Dana White, to summarize what I'm trying to say here. This is Dana White when Francis Ngannou has 2 fights left on his deal and Jon Jones is the one in contract negotiations, okay? The guy that he's sucking off left and right now. Let's hear what he has to say about Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones then.
Deserve a rematch, but man, the idea of a Jon Jones fight seems awfully exciting right now. And Jon came out, tweeted, said, "Show me the money." What appeals to you most? Because it seems like that would be an amazing super fight.
If I'm Jon Jones and I'm home watching this fight, I start moving to 85.
The media laughing really pissed me off. Like, talk about a bunch of sycophants. Disgusting. But yeah, Jon Jones is going to move to 185 because he's so scared of Francis Ngannou. Oh, but now Francis Ngannou is scared of Jon Jones, a fight that he's been trying to get for years.
You think that's a fight that you'd like to put together next? I mean, sure. I know we don't matchmake, but that sure does seem exciting.
Listen, I could sit here all day and tell you, what show me the money mean? I tell you guys this all the time. If you can say you want to fight somebody, but do you really want to?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that? What was he saying right there? Let's rewind that back.
We don't matchmake, but that sure does seem exciting.
Listen, I could sit here all day and tell you, what show me the money mean? I tell you guys this all the time. If you can say you want to fight somebody, but do you really want to?
Yeah.
You can say you want to fight someone, but do you really want to? He is implying explicitly here that Jon Jones is ducking Francis Ngannou. Oh, because Jon Jones was in contract negotiations at the time, and Francis Ngannou was not yet, or at least not deep in contract negotiations at this point in time. So at this point, 3 years ago, over 3 years ago at this point, Jones is scared of Ngannou, but now Ngannou is scared of Jones, which is just an outright joke, by the way. But let's carry on. Let's see, what else could he possibly say? He couldn't embarrass himself anymore. He couldn't be any more deranged, could he?
But realistically, his deal was bigger here.
So again, remember what he said before, and I'm just going to rewind it and let you hear it all at once. Francis Ngannou is all about the money, but then he realizes, well, that looks stupid. If you guys didn't see it recently, Kevin Iole confronted Dana on Francis making more money outside the UFC. Dana White blew up. I will link a video on that in the end cards as well as down in the description if you want to go check that out. I'm not going to play those clips here, but he's all about the money. But then he had to catch himself and say, well, he was going to make more money here. How does that make any sense?
Francis is all about the money. Francis left because he knew that if he fought Jon Jones and didn't win, it would hurt his chances of making the money that he wanted to make. But realistically, his deal was bigger here. His deal was bigger here if he stayed in the UFC.
How does any critical thinking human being listen to that and be like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense? This makes a lot of sense. He's all about the money, but wait a second, his deal was bigger here. So he would have made more money here, but he's all about the money. That's why he left. But he's scared of Jon Jones, but Jon Jones was scared of him. Okay, Dana. And it gets even worse here. Dana has become so diluted over the years and so petty and such a grumpy. I can't even think of any more pejoratives to describe him. Let's carry on.
I think I've told this story a million times. They can deny it all they want. Why the fuck would I lie? What do I care? It doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
Does anyone truly believe it doesn't matter to him one way or another? Does anyone and how would he be privy to Francis Ngannou's full numbers of his PFL contract? There's been reports, but there's been reports of what Dana offered Ngannou, and what PFL offered him was substantially more, with a bunch of other freedoms, including the freedom to go box, which Ngannou then went and made $30 million off of. So that's a real head scratcher, but it gets even worse. Dana White continues to put his foot in his mouth here. Listen to this.
I was going to cut Francis when he lost 2 in a row. I was going to cut him.
That was after.
Talk about petty. Like, what? And I don't believe this for 1 second, boys. I was going to cut Francis when he lost 2 fights in a row.
To the Derek Lewis
fight. Somebody around here begged me not to do it. And, so it wouldn't have mattered to me one way or the other.
I don't know what that has to do with anything. But let's listen to that one more time, because I really want to actually delve into that statement a little bit more. He was going to cut Francis Ngannou. Remember, the question is, what do you make of Francis's return to MMA, after getting knocked out in boxing and losing his 15-month-old son? Well, Francis is all about the money, but he would have made more money here. I would have cut him after 2 fights, but someone else convinced me to keep him.
I was going to cut Francis when he lost 2 in a row.
Oh, really, Baldy? Is that really? really what you were going to do? Let's actually take a look. Francis Ngannou lost 2 in a row. Lost to Stipe Miocic in a heavyweight title fight. This was the first fight against Stipe. January 20th, 2018. Great fight, by the way. Okay? And then he loses to Derek Lewis in a super boring fight where neither guy really let their hands go because they were worried about the power coming back. Super boring fight, the only boring fight in Francis Ngannou's entire career. What happened after that? Because Dana White was going to cut Francis Ngannou, which means he didn't think highly of Francis Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou wasn't valuable. Well, he fought Curtis Blades, he fought Cain Velasquez, and he fought Junior Dos Santos. I wonder how many of these 3 were main events. So I went and checked, which I already knew. Oh, Curtis Blades, Francis Ngannou, main event in China. Okay, well, what was that next fight? Oh, it was Francis Ngannou, Cain Velasquez, main event on ESPN in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, what about next after that? Oh, Francis Ngannou, Junior Dos Santos, main event, UFC, ESPN again. Minneapolis this time. So you're telling me you were going to cut him, one of the most exciting, promotable fighters on your entire roster, in a division that's absolute dog shit, okay? Think about the heavyweight division. Think about that guy that just fought Junior Tafa. I don't even remember his name. Think about that fight. And he was going to cut Francis Ngannou, arguably the heavyweight GOAT, okay? You can make the case. You can make the case he's the heavyweight GOAT. Now, I get it. Maybe not at the time, okay? Maybe that logic doesn't really flesh out. But you're going to cut a guy who just fought Stipe, had a tough fight with Stipe Miocic, who was considered the heavyweight GOAT at the time. You're going to cut him because he has one more loss after that. But yet, he's so invaluable to you, you main event him against Curtis Blades, Cain Velasquez, and Junior Dos Santos. Then he gets a fight against Jairzinho Rozenstruik on the big... I believe, actually, you know what I'm trying to remember here? I wish I could remember this. I think this Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight was originally a co-main event. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not going to dig into this right now. It was canceled due to COVID. I believe this was a co-main event and then got rescheduled for UFC 249 when they returned to action, okay? I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that was. It was a fight night card. They were going to be a co-main event. So main event, co-main event on a big card. Okay, I believe it was maybe a big UK card if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, he was going to cut Francis. How is that even pertinent to the question asked? What did you make about the struggles that he's faced and his ability to go out there and perform? The only thing I'm shocked about is Dana White's answer is, oh, I didn't see that. I didn't know he was even fighting. Meanwhile, he has a whole printed out sheet of PFL analytics versus PowerSlap that he had some intern conjure up. Meanwhile, somebody's buying PowerSlap views on their YouTube channel for their long form content because they don't want to piss Daddy Dana off. You know, it's crazy. Let's continue. And by the way, I think when Dana White provides these PowerSlap analytics, I think somebody behind the scenes who doesn't want to piss Dana White off is coming up with these analytics in a way like, if you ever heard of people manipulating data where they manipulate the Y and X axis of a graph to try to make it seem better than it actually is, I bet you some of these numbers there's just some intern making up to try to make Dana White feel better. You know, they got more followers than Real Madrid. But let's carry on. Let's listen to a little bit more of this.
I was going to cut him.
That was after the Derek Lewis
Yeah.
fight?
Somebody around here begged me not to do it.
Look how upset he is. Look how upset he is about that. Somebody around here begged me not to do it. Yeah. Why would you? He was one of your best fighters in the heavyweight division. By the way, guys, if you enjoyed this content, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. I would greatly appreciate it. I do a lot of research pulling up all these clips. I would really appreciate if you guys like the video and subscribe.
And, you know, so it wouldn't have mattered to me one way or the other, you know? There's a much deeper story to this whole thing, and he would have made more money if he stayed in the UFC. So he didn't want to fight Jon Jones. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact. Should I play the clip of him wanting to go down to 185 again? It's just crazy, though. And how does a media member say, well, you just said he was all about the money. So which was it? Which was it? Was he all about the money, or he was not all about the money, or you wouldn't have made more money here? He made $40 million in the last 2 years since he left the UFC. How much would he made in one fight against Jon Jones? Can you give us the number, Dana, since you're so open and honest?
My friend. You know, we're moving on. Obviously, everybody loves Tom Aspinall and wants to see Jones and Aspinall or Stipe and Aspinall. And I feel like when Stipe and Jon were young, Jon was 23.
By the way, we're moving on. We're moving. You sound like a bitter, jealous ex of Francis Ngannou. I mean, that's what you sound like, Dana. That's literally what you sound like. You want that BBC back, okay? That's what he sounds like. He's got a jukebox outside of Francis Ngannou's window every night, begging him to come back. Okay, that's what it sounds like. We'll listen to the rest of this clip.
Youngest champion ever in UFC history, and somebody gave him an opportunity. And I think that Stipe and Jon, whoever wins, should give Aspinall the same opportunity they had.
So all these rumors of, you know, Jon and Stipe both retiring, have you talked to them about that at all? Or you just hope?
Yeah, I think that both Jon and Stipe will say they're going to retire because they're going to start negotiating. And
look at that shit-eating grin. And then he goes on to talk a little bit more about Aspinall, Jones, and Stipe, and he continues to push the narrative that Jones or Stipe will probably fight Tom Aspinall, even though it's the fight that should have been made originally, because Jon Jones is the undisputed champion who hasn't fought since March of 2023, and Tom Aspinall was crowned the interim heavyweight champion in November of 2023, but instead we're giving a title shot to like 40-something-year-old Stipe Miocic, who sat on the sidelines answering phone calls at the fire department for the last 4 years. That's the fight we're making, okay? Dana White's ego ruined the heavyweight division, and to act so petty towards Francis Ngannou after years, it's been years, and all Francis did was say, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. I think I can go make more money elsewhere. And that's what he did. He was right. Dana White was wrong. Basically, since Dana couldn't manipulate Francis Ngannou and keep him hostage in the UFC, and Francis, out of principle, after the UFC and Dana treated him poorly, said, you know what? I'm going to take my talents elsewhere. Dana still hasn't forgiven him for that. To the fact that he just has to shit on him at his little PowerSlap, post-slap press conference that nobody gives a rat's ass about unless he's talking about UFC. Half the media, if not 75% of the media, wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Dana White and the UFC. Because that sport only gets views in short-form content, which doesn't generate any real revenue, by the way. So let me know what you guys think. I think this was Dana White's, some of his most unhinged, deranged comments that are easily, just disprovable. And it just makes zero sense. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.